Welcome back to I Think You're Muted, the podcast where we empower you to unlock your voice and lead with impact. I'm Dr. Stephanie Dean, and today we're diving into one of the most subtle but powerful aspects of communication, timing. Now, when we talk about timing, we're not just talking about finding the right moment to jump into a conversation. We're talking about a skill that can shape your entire communication strategy. Whether it's in a meeting, a presentation, or a casual conversation, the timing of your words can make or break your impact. Today, we're going to explore how to master this art, ensuring that when you do speak, your words land perfectly and resonate with those around you. Welcome to I Think You're Muted, the podcast empowering professional women to step up, speak out, and be heard. I'm Dr. Stephanie Dean, and after hearing I think you're muted one too many times in meetings, I realized many of us are living our lives on mute. Your voice is your most powerful tool, and in each episode, you'll get the strategies and stories to help you find it, overcome challenges, and lead with confidence. Ready to turn up the volume on your impact? Let's dive in. I want you to think about a time when you felt like you spoke up at the wrong moment. We've all done it. What happened? How did it feel? It's a tough lesson to learn, but the good news is that timing is a skill that you can develop and refine. By the end of this episode, you'll have the tools to not only find the perfect moment to speak, but also make sure your message hits home when you do. So let's start by talking about why timing is so important, not just in communication, but in every aspect of our interactions with others. Timing is more than just a tactical skill, right? It's a fundamental element of effective leadership, of effective influence, of relationship building. But why does it matter so much? Why is it that the exact same words can have vastly different impacts depending on when they're spoken? To understand this, we need to delve into the psychology of communication and the dynamics of human interaction. At its core, timing is about emotional intelligence. It's about the ability to read the room, understand the emotional state of those around you, and choose the moment when your words will resonate most deeply. It's about empathy, about tuning in to unspoken signals that others are sending and responding to in a way that acknowledges and respects those emotions. Okay, so imagine being in a conversation where someone is sharing a deeply personal story, and suddenly another person interrupts completely unrelated point. Even if what they're saying is important, the timing is off, the impact, it's lost. That's because the interruption doesn't just break the flow of conversation, it disrupts the emotional connection that was being formed. This is the why behind timing. It's about preserving and enhancing the emotional connections that make communication meaningful. But it's not just about avoiding missteps. It's about maximizing your influence. When you speak at the right moment, you're not just adding to the conversation, you're guiding it, you're shaping it, you're steering it towards a desired outcome. This is where timing intersects with leadership. Great leaders know that timing isn't just about when to speak, it's about when to listen, when to wait, and when to act. They understand that timing can be the difference between a message that inspires action and one that falls flat. Okay, you guys know I just adore the work of Simon Sinek and his team. And he often talks about the importance of understanding your why. Again, if you haven't watched that TED Talk, you need to go do it. So the same or a similar principle applies to timing. The why behind perfect timing is about creating the conditions for your message to be received in the way you intend. It's about ensuring that your words align with the needs and the emotions and the expectations of your audience at that moment. So let's consider an example from the world of negotiations. In any negotiation, timing is a decisive factor. A well-timed concession can turn the tide in your favor, and a poorly timed demand can derail the entire process. The key is to understanding not just what to say, but when to say it so it aligns with the ebb and the flow of the negotiation, building towards a mutually beneficial outcome. So let's bring this back to your everyday meetings and your everyday conversations. Think about how often you've seen someone jump into a discussion too early or hold back too long, and the opportunity for impact gone, just slips away. Timing matters because it's about more than just getting your point across. It's about creating a moment of resonance where your message connects with the listeners in a way that's meaningful and memorable. So let's go back to that why. Why does timing matter? Because it's the bridge between intention and impact. I'm going to say that again. Why does the timing matter? It's the bridge between intention and impact. It's the difference between speaking to be heard and speaking to be understood. When you master that art of timing, you're not just communicating, you're connecting, you're influencing, you're leading. So I want you to think about this in the context of your own experiences. Reflect on a time when your words had the impact that you intended. What role did that timing play? Was it about the moment you chose to speak that made the difference? Or was it a moment that you chose not to speak and wait for the right moment? And conversely, think about a time when your message didn't land as you hoped. Was that a matter of timing? Understanding the why behind bad timing can help you harness this powerful tool in your own communication, helping you make your voice not just heard, but impactful. And isn't that kind of the point? So now that we've established why timing matters, let's talk about how to gauge that perfect moment to speak up. Because again, I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why at the beginning of every episode. But then I want to tell you how, right? This is where the art of reading the room comes into play. It's not just a cliche. It's not just a saying. It's not just about what's being said, but it's also how it's being said, who's saying it, and how others are reacting. So reading the room involves tuning into the subtle cues that people give us, cues that can guide you to the perfect moment to insert your thoughts. Let's break it down into some key elements that you need to be paying attention to. So the first one is body language and facial expressions. People's body language can tell you a lot about when it's time to speak. Are they engaged? Are they nodding in agreement? Or are they distracted? Or are they looking at their phones? If people seem disengaged, it may not be the best time to make your point. But if you notice heads nodding, eyes focused, and people leaning in, that's a good sign they're listening. For example, if someone is leaning forward and making eye contact, it's likely they're deeply engaged and receptive. But on the other hand, if they've crossed their arms, they're looking away, they might be closed off and distracted. Use these cues to time your contribution when people are the most open to hearing what you have to say. Okay, the next key element is energy levels. I want you to pay attention to the energy in the room. Is the conversation lively and fast-paced, or is it more subdued? If the energy is high, you might need to jump in quickly and match the pace. But if it's low, a well-timed pause before you speak can draw attention to your words. High energy means you may need to be more concise, more assertive, and low energy allows for a more thoughtful and deliberate approach. So think of it like surfing, right? You want to catch the wave at just the right moment. If you paddle out too soon, you're going to miss that momentum. If you paddle out too late, you're going to get caught in the undertow. The same goes for conversations. You got to ride that wave of energy to make your point when it will have the most impact. So the third key element I want you to think about is conversational flow. Notice the flow of the conversation. Is there a natural pause or a shift in topic? These moments can be perfect opportunities to introduce your thoughts without interrupting others. The flow of conversation is like a river. I know, all the metaphors this time. But there are times when the current is strong and there's times when it slows down. These slower moments are often the best time to jump in. So if you notice a topic winding down or a brief silence, this is your window. It's a chance to steer the conversation in a new direction or to reinforce a point that may have been overlooked. Remember, timing isn't just about waiting for your turn. It's about sensing the ebb and the flow of the discussion and inserting your voice where it will have the most impact. So a few years ago, I was part of a faculty meeting at a university where I worked. It was one of those critical end of semester meetings where the entire faculty comes together to review the academic year, discuss upcoming initiatives, strategize for the future. These happen often. It happened at many places that I worked. So the atmosphere was charged with a mix of exhaustion and excitement because it's exhausting. Ask any teacher that you know, wrapping up the end of the semester, you're done, you're tired. But also the excitement about new programs that we were planning to introduce in the fall. So our department chair was particularly enthusiastic that day. She was presenting a new interdisciplinary program that had the potential to really put our department on the map. The idea had been in the work for a few months, and the meeting was a culmination of all that planning. The faculty was buzzing with anticipation. We were excited, and you could feel the momentum building as she laid out the vision. Now, There was one professor, let's call him Dr. Smith, who was known for his particular meticulous attention to detail. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. We all need a Dr. Smith everywhere we work because ideas and this attention to detail, they need to go hand in hand. That isn't the point of this. The point of this is timing here. So he was incredibly respected for his expertise, particularly in curriculum development. But he also had a reputation for sometimes focusing a bit too much on the small stuff at the expense of, that bigger picture. So as the department chair finished presenting the new program, the room was filled with a sense of possibility. You've been in meetings like that, right? This is going to be great. We're going to do this together. We're all in. It's not quite kumbaya, but we're getting there. People were nodding. They're exchanging excited looks. You could see the faculty beginning to imagine the impact this program could have on our students and the university as a whole. But just as the chair was about to move on to that next agenda item, Dr. Smith raised his hand. The room went silent and all eyes turned to him. This was the moment where reading the room was crucial. The energy was high, the vision was clear, the faculty was ready to jump on board with this new program. But instead of building on that momentum, Dr. Smith chose this moment to dive into a detailed critique of the curriculum, raising concerns about course load and departmental resources and potential scheduling conflicts. As he spoke, it was like a balloon losing its air. You could see the excitement just draining from the room. The faculty, who had been so enthusiastic just moments before, began to shift in their seats. Their smiles began to fade as they listened to this litany of potential issues. The department chair, who had been so passionate in her presentation just, not long before that, suddenly looked deflated. Dr. Smith's timing was off, and the impact was immediate. It's important to note that Dr. Smith's points weren't wrong. Don't get me wrong there. I'm not saying we don't need Dr. Smith. We need Dr. Smith. But his mistake was in misreading the room. But he didn't pick up on the excitement, the readiness to embrace the new program. Instead of riding that wave of enthusiasm, he inadvertently halted it by focusing on the challenges at a time when the faculty needed to be inspired and united. The meeting ended on a low note, and the department chair had to do damage control in the following weeks, reassuring the faculty, re-energizing them about the program. Dr. Smith's well-intentioned but poorly timed contribution had cast a shadow over what should have been a moment of collective excitement and forward momentum. So what could Dr. Smith have done differently? I want to stress for the third time here, we need our Dr. Smiths. A more effective approach might have been to first acknowledge the excitement and the potential of the new program and align himself with that positive energy in the room. For example, he could have said, this program has tremendous potential, and I'm really excited about what it could mean for our department. But to ensure its success, I think there's some logical details we should keep in mind as we move forward. This way, he could have validated the vision, he could have contributed to the momentum, and he could have introduced his concerns in a way that didn't deflate the room. You can do both. Another strategy would have been to save the detailed critique for a follow-up meeting or a smaller, more focused discussion with the department chair and relevant stakeholders. By doing so, he could have ensured that his important points were addressed, but didn't disrupt the overall energy and direction of that faculty meeting. So this experience is a powerful reminder that reading the room isn't just about hearing what's said. It's about tuning into the emotional undercurrents, the energy, and the overall vibe of the conversation. Timing is everything. Sometimes it's necessary to hold back, let excitement build, and choose a more appropriate moment to introduce challenges or concerns. And when you read the room correctly, you can contribute in a way that amplifies the energy, that propels the conversation forward, rather than slowing it down. So the next time you're in a faculty meeting or any kind of important meeting, take a moment to really assess the mood in the room. Ask yourself, is this the right time for my point? Will it build on the momentum or will it deflate it? Because, as Dr. Smith learned, the right message at the wrong time can have consequences that are difficult to reverse. So let's put this into practice. The next time you're in a meeting, try to focus on these cues: body language, energy levels, and conversational flow. See if you can identify the perfect moment to contribute. This is going to take some practice, but once you get the hang of it, you'll find that your contributions are not only more impactful, but are more appreciated. So let's look now at some techniques for perfect timing. Now that you know what to look for, how do we execute that perfect timing when you do speak up? These techniques are designed to help you not only find the right moment, but deliver your message in a way that maximizes its impact. Okay, we touched on this in our last episode, but it's such an important technique that it bears repeating: the power of the pause. In a world where conversations often feel like a race to get the next word in, pausing before you speak can be a game changer. But why is this so powerful? First, pausing gives you a moment to collect your thoughts. Instead of rushing into your response, you give yourself the space to consider what you're about to say, ensure that your contribution is thoughtful and relevant, and this momentary silence also signals to others that you're about to say something important, which naturally, hopefully, piques their interest. Think of it this way. A pause is like a comma in a sentence. It allows your words to breathe, gives them structure, gives it clarity. Pause, you create a sense of anticipation. It's almost as if you were building suspense, making others lean in both physically and mentally, waiting to hear what comes next. This is where the psychological effect of the pause comes into play. When people sense that something important is about to be said, they tune in more closely. Your pause becomes the magnet for attention, drawing everyone in and making your words land with greater impact. Pausing is a tool for commanding the room without saying a word. It shows that you're in control, that you're not rushing, and that you're confident enough to let the silence speak for itself. It's a subtle yet powerful way to assert your presence and to ensure that when you do speak, people are engaged. Okay, so next time when you're in a conversation, especially a high-stakes meeting, try doing two things. Notice when people are pausing, and then try incorporating a pause before you speak. It might feel uncomfortable at first because we have been so conditioned to fill silences quickly, right? But with practice, you'll find this simple technique can make a profound difference in how your words are received. Now, while pausing is incredibly powerful, there are times when you need to do the exact opposite. You need to jump in quickly and assertively. In fast-paced discussions, especially those with strong voices, timing is critical. Waiting too long can mean missing your chance to contribute, and your valuable insights, gone. They go unheard. So by jumping in, it's not just about speed, it's about confidence. When you decide to speak, do it with conviction. Use a strong, clear voice, and don't be afraid to assert yourself. Confidence is contagious. When you speak with certainty, others are more likely to listen. They're more likely to respect your point of view and engage with your ideas. This doesn't mean being forceful or dominating the conversation. That is not what confidence is about. But it is about being sure of your contribution and making sure that it's heard. So the key here is to be concise and to the point. In a fast-moving conversation, there is little room for rambling. You want to focus on delivering your message clearly and efficiently. Think of it like a well-placed dart, sharp, precise, impactful. And then remember, confidence isn't just about the words you say, it's also how you say them. Your tone, your body language, and eye contact, they all play a role in conveying confidence. But that said, it's important to strike a balance. Confidence does not mean aggression. It's about finding that sweet spot where you assert your voice, but you're not steamrolling over others. It's about empathy. Practicing this balance in low-stakes situations like casual conversations with friends and colleagues, I know I preach this in every episode. Practice these skills. These skills are not something you're going to listen to one episode about and then go and be able to do perfectly in your next high-stakes meeting. No, you got to practice this stuff. The more you practice, the more natural it'll feel when it really counts. But sometimes, despite your best efforts to find the right moment, you may still feel unsure when to jump in. That's when asking for the floor comes in. It's a simple and highly effective technique. In a heated or fast-moving discussion, just politely ask for the floor. It can be a respectful way to insert yourself into the conversation. Something as simple as, "Hey, may I add something?" can work wonders. It shows that you're not just barging in, you're acknowledging the flow of conversation while also signaling that you have something valuable to contribute. Asking for the floor is a great way to gauge the room's readiness to hear your point. By putting the question out there and giving yourself a moment to read the responses, if you sense a hesitation or see the conversation is too intense at that moment, you can hold back, right? You have a choice here. You can wait until a better opportunity arises. It's a way to assert your presence without disrupting the flow or stepping on someone else's point. So this technique can also serve as a soft entry into conversation, especially in groups where interruptions are common or where voices can get easily lost in the mix. By asking for the floor, you're modeling a respectful communication, which can help set the tone for the rest of the discussion. So if you ever find yourself unsure about the right moment to speak, don't hesitate to ask for the floor. It's a simple, respectful way to ensure your voice is heard without causing a disruption. And over time, as you become more comfortable with this approach, you'll find that it becomes a natural part of your communication toolkit. So here's your action step for this week. In your next meeting or conversation, practice reading the room and timing your contribution. Pay attention to the energy, the flow, the body language, and see if you can find that perfect moment to speak up. You might even want to take notes afterwards. What worked? What didn't work? How can you refine your timing in the future? In fact, I would highly recommend journaling. When you master the art of timing, your words can have greater empathy and they'll resonate more deeply with those around you. Timing isn't just about waiting. It's about being aware and being intentional. It's about understanding the rhythm of a conversation, reading the room, and knowing when your voice will have the most impact. In our next episode, we're going to dive into a topic that everyone faces but few truly master: handling tough conversations. Whether it's giving critical feedback, addressing conflict, or having that difficult talk you've been avoiding, we'll explore strategies to approach these situations with confidence, with empathy, and with effectiveness. If you've ever struggled with tough conversations, this is an episode you don't want to miss. If you've enjoyed the podcast, be sure to subscribe, share it with a friend, and leave a review. Your support, especially as a new podcast, helps us reach more women who are ready to unlock their voices and lead with confidence. Thank you.